Hey guys, and welcome back to more Let's Play of Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney, where it's literally now Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney. We are now trying to figure out what exactly is Darklaw trying to accomplish from doing all of these things that she's done tonight, as the judge is pointing out right now. So let us begin. With dots.
I assure you, 'twas not my intent to deceive the good citizens of Labyrinthia.
Excuse me.
However, I must now reveal the truth to you all.
What did she say?
You don't think Lady Darklaw is in league with the witches, do you? She can't be. She was the one that saw to the other witches' demise.
Lady Darklaw, are you saying that you're...
That's right, my lord. I am a shade.
A shade? Something in my throat. Hold on a second. Because coffee's gonna help with this. Lady Darklaw, will you please tell the court exactly what you mean when you say shade?
Yes, of course. I grow wary of standing behind his bench. I will tell you all I can.
What the heck is she trying to pull? Why testify about something that could potentially undermine your credibility? Shades!
Shades live outside the realm of those who dwell within Labyrinthia. To them, I am known as the Great Witch. Those that are put to the flames in the witch trials become shades who live their lives in the woods. We exist to carry out tasks given to us by our mistress, the Great Witch herself. I am not a witch, nor am I a wandering spirit.
What on earth? Hi, Inquisitor Darklaw! Do you mean to say that not only are you a witch, but that you are the Great Witch? Unbelievable. Lady Darklaw is the Great Witch?
The Great Witch? Doesn't that mean she's Bezella?
That's right. Lady Darklaw is Bezella. I do hope you have not forgotten what we established only moments ago. It is not possible for Miss Darklaw to be Bezella. But Inquisitor Layton, surely the testimony just now proves it. It's so weird calling him Inquisitor Layton. I am afraid that in the heat of such revelations, you have all misheard the information.
'Tis pointless. This is the extent of what the people of this town will believe.
I believe the truth will become clear during our cross-examination. Don't you agree, Mr. Wright? Hey, stop playing with the squeaky toy. Defendor, you may begin your interrogation. Cross-examination! Takes a screenshot. Cause that's so cool. Anyway. Alright, let's press on this. Hold it! Great Witch?
Yes, that's right. However, I am not Bezella. The mistress to those who dwell in the Eldritch Woods is dubbed the Great Witch. Even if I wanted to be Bezella, I couldn't. As the ever-so-charming Inquisitor stated earlier, I cannot use magic.
Miss Darklaw, I have one question. What do you mean by live outside the realm?
I mean just that, Inquisitor. We truly do live in a realm separate from this town. Now, surely one as intelligent as yourself has worked out the answer by now, no?
Perhaps. That remains to be seen, Miss Darklaw.
Regardless, 'tis something we cannot discuss with anyone. But it is something that the defense should be able to prove.
That almost sounds like a challenge. By the way, Miss Darklaw, since you're not actually a witch, why do you continue to be called that?
To answer that, I must first discuss the true identity of the Shades.
I think we're pressing here too. Hold it! So you're saying that Kira here right now is a shade version of the Kira from before?
Indeed, Defender. The girl has no recollection of her life prior to living in those woods.
What manner of witchery is this? Why? This girl, Kira, the flower seller, was cast straight to the flames before our very eyes. That's right, Your Honor. But as you can see, she didn't die. You see, there's actually a trick to the incineration device in the witch's court. A trick? Once the verdict has been delivered, the court attendants move the steel cage into position, after which its seal shut. Ah! That sound. Then, the cage is dropped down into a pit of fire. The bottom of the cage then opens, allowing the witch inside to escape unharmed into an underground passage. But if what you're saying is true, Defender, then what of this town's witch-purging history? What has been the purpose of all of this?
You and the knights have indeed been ridding Labyrinthia of witches. However, nary a single life has been taken in the process. That is the reality.
Rubble. But you cannot truly expect me to believe such a ridiculous notion.
Your Honor, it's true! Take a good hard look! It doesn't get any more alive than this!
Oh, it's you!
Yeah!
Wait, what? Oh, I thought she was going to say something. I obey! Wow. That was actually the judge.
Well, it's actually Maya Fey, your forgetfulness. What the heck are you doing? Everyone's gonna recognize you. Yeah, but seeing is believing, Nick. Now they have to believe you. Do you see? Are you satisfied? All those found guilty in the witch trials lose their names, magic, and memory. They are then sent to spend their lives as shades in the Eldritch Woods. And the mistress of those shades is the Great Witch. As you can see, this girl, too, has become a shade.
I have no more words to express my utter disbelief at the situation.
That's enough. Shall we return to the testimony?
Why do I have the feeling things are going to get a lot worse? Oh, they will. And they always do. Okay, pressing on this.
Hold it!
Just pressing on everything. These tasks you mentioned, were you acting on them this evening?
Yes, I was told to come here and become Bezella.
Wait just a moment, witness. Did you just say become Bezella? My, how absolutely dreadful. Why would anyone be given such a terrible task?
Where have these shades come from?
Order!
I'm sorry. I don't know why I was given such a task. All I can do is follow the orders I am given. If I can do that, then I can return.
What do you mean you can return?
Such is the nature of the shades. Neither human nor witch, theirs is an existence spent in the shadows. Each of the shades is given a specific task. Then, upon successfully completing such task, they are allowed to return to Labyrinthia as brand new people.
But Lady Darklaw, how can they return as brand new citizens? When we already know who they were. For instance, we all recognize the former flower seller standing before us.
Now that, milord, remains a secret. But a secret you will come to understand sooner rather than later.
Simply baffling.
The one who gives us our task is the Great Witch. That would be you, Lady Darklaw. Oh, magnificent one.
I think Darklaw likes to be, gloated around with these Magnificent titles. Anyway, while this explanation is wrought with much I cannot comprehend, I request the witnesses add it to their testimony.
Okay. Lady Darklaw was our venerable mistress. She assigned us our tasks. She was the Great Witch.
Was? Press!
Hold it!
Hit the press button, damn it. So, about these tasks, can you give us any other examples?
A shade's task must never be discussed with others, no matter what.
She says that even though she's just finished telling us about her secret task. Incidentally, do you perhaps remember when you arrived back in town to carry out your orders?
Well, not really. My memory is still a little fuzzy.
Say, didn't Kira only just recently become one of those shade thingies?
Still, I failed in my task tonight.
Come to think of it, when Luke and I had a little run-in with Kira, I remember being blown clear across the marketplace. But I never saw any explosives or gunpowder. Maybe Kira was given the task of blowing you to smithereens, Nick. And we're done. Getting back to this testimony. I'm sure there's something here that just doesn't add up. I think we're just pressing on everything. Ah, my foot's falling asleep. You really don't have any recollection of your old flower-selling self, do you?
I don't. When a witch becomes a shade, they lose all memory of their past life.
They lose their memories? But why? And yet, you still have some grasp of the concept of magic, do you not, Witness?
Let me spell it out for you. Magic does not exist in the Eldritch Woods. Oh, but there are actually lots of things back in the forest that I have not seen in this town.
There are things you haven't seen here?
Like really huge machines, that sort of thing. There's one that spits out fire with such amazing speed, and then it spills these huge plumes of gray smoke.
What? A machine that spits fire? Never have I heard such a thing. It's a metal dragon! Are you certain that these machines of which you speak of are not simply magic?
You know, now that you mention it, I don't think anyone from this town can actually see those of us from the forest.
They can't see you? Could it be something like that robe? How could such a thing even be possible without magic?
Objection!
Miss Darklaw, if I may interrupt for just a moment.
What is it,
Inquisitor Layton? Through your testimony just now, we have all come to understand the process of how one becomes a shade. However, I was hoping you could perhaps elaborate on one additional point. Namely, what exactly is the purpose behind the shades?
If you wish to know our purpose, there are certain other things you must first understand. Once you've done that, the answer should be quite clear. Isn't that right, Defender?
The purpose behind the shades?
Rest assured, you will not get the answer from me. As the saying goes, the witch is in your court, Defender.
Sounds like Darklaw's challenging me to figure this out. Challenge accepted. Alright, we are not pressing on this. We are presenting Grandworm here, as soon as I figure out how to get to it. There it is. Yeah, the Great Fire Dragon summons forth the Great Fire Dragon for the... Okay, yeah, that sentence, I'm sorry. For the caster to respond to command, responsible for the legendary fire that lit the town ablaze so many years ago. Present. Something that doesn't exist. I have a feeling no one is going to like the answer I'm about to give, and it'll probably end up shaking this town to its core. But I've got to tell them. The truth has to come out. Since I arrived here in Labyrinthia, there's been no shortage of really strange events.
Ignace, Demir, Goldor, and now Grandworm.
The mere command of magic is in itself a crime, is it not?
In this town, witches are arrested and made to participate in witch trials. They are then sentenced to death by fire. But none of those witches actually died. That supposed death by fire wasn't real. And neither is magic. It doesn't really exist.
What are you saying, Defender?
The Eldritch Woods apparently contains some rather large machines, unlike anything that exists within Labyrinthia. Machines that emit fire and produce large plumes of smoke. To top it all off, the citizens of Labyrinthia are not able to see said machines.
It sounds like nothing more than magic.
Yes, that's exactly it, Your Honor. Miss Darklaw, magic doesn't really exist in this town. That's the answer, isn't it?
But magic does not... What utter nonsense!
It seems we have finally arrived at the stunning conclusion. The secret behind Labyrinthia.
What? What?
Poor Judge.
Order! Order! Order, I say! What is the meaning of this?
It means that all of the magic you've seen in this town was nothing more than an illusion created to put into motion by the Shades.
But, Defender, the witches! We have clearly seen them use magic! Let us take a moment to think carefully about the systems employed by the Shades. Systems?
What is essential in order for a witch to use magic? The witch must possess a Talia Magica and must say an incantation in order to cast a spell.
And the spells able to be cast are determined by the scepter's magic gems. Now, what do you think is the purpose of placing such requirements on the use of magic? What do you mean, purpose?
Oh, poor Judge.
These requirements are not there to allow the caster to cast magic. Rather, the reality is they are there to inform the Shades of who should be using magic. It is possible that witches were always being closely observed by Shades. That's why they don these robes to appear hidden until they are needed to create magic. Create? Indeed, there are all kinds of spells within this tome. It would be quite troublesome if they were simply allowed to use any spell at will.
Yeah, it would make the Shades' job that much more difficult for sure.
Precisely so. That is why it was imperative that a certain restriction be placed on the use of magic.
Ah, you're referring to the Talia Magica, right, Professor?
Of course! No wonder the scepter could contain only 2 magic gems! Then there's the incantation. What would happen if a witch could simply whisper the incantation quietly to herself, or not even say it at all?
Boy, that'd be so cool. I'd be casting spells all day long, and no one would ever see it coming.
Maya, we spent an entire trial proving that you weren't a witch, remember?
If the witches didn't give some sort of signal, then there would be no way for the Shades to know when to cast a spell.
Right you are, Mr. Wright. The incantations were a way of telling the Shades when the witch was ready to use magic. What on earth? Never did I think these requirements could have such a purpose. The plot is unraveling. Now, let's think back to the previous events leading up to today that have involved magic. Our first encounter with magic was the use of the spell Ignace a few nights ago. A spell like this was nothing more than a flame spewed from a machine used by the Shades. Then that means Demir!
A spell that makes a caster disappear? No doubt about it, it must have been this robe.
Next is the incantation with Goldor, the spell that transmuted me into a gold statue. While I understand this may sound a bit absurd, I can only surmise.
Honestly, if you're playing a Professor Layton game, you kinda expect the absurdity.
the Shades created a gold statue in my image, took me, and left it in my place the instant the incantation was uttered. Professor, it's no more absurd than anything else that's happened so far. We can therefore conclude that all of the magic in Labyrinthia was created in a similar vein. What do you say to that, Miss Darklaw?
I expect nothing less from you, Inquisitor Layton. At any given time, there were between 5 and 10 witches in town. All of the witches were accompanied by shades at all times. It was easier than you would think. You see, the shades living in the Eldritch Woods total in the hundreds. It was simply a matter of having each of the shades operate in shifts in order to watch over each of the witches within the town.
Okay, you know, here's a strange thing. So, all the shades are basically witches, or previously were condemned to be witches in Labyrinthia, right? So why are there male shades? Since, they follow the rule of males cannot be witches, basically. So, just think about that loophole, shall we? Anyway.
It was simply a matter of having each of the shades operate in shifts in order to watch over each of the witches within the town.
I must say, Lady Darklaw, that is quite a number of shades.
'Twas not only those who fell victim to the flames that would turn into shades.
Oh, well, okay.
But their victims, too, were made permanent residents of the Eldritch Woods.
So, I guess, like, robbers and murderers, I guess? Or, oh god, it's disturbing.
Then, those 2 shady thieves from before were turned into shades? Ah, yes, you mean Robs and Mugs. Despite their dubious appearance, those 2 were a couple of my best shades.
Shady thieves turned into shades. This stuff writes itself. I cannot believe what I have heard. And then the crowd goes silent. However, there is still one thing I do not understand just yet.
And what would that be?
As has just been explained, we have established that there is no possibility of magic being real. But replacing me with a gold statue to give the illusion of transmutation, for example, while it sounds simple enough, I myself, and presumably also Miss Faye, have no recollection of this replacement actually taking place.
Hey, that's right! The professor got all blingy-blingy before I could even bat an eye!
It begs the question, how and when was that statue created, let alone used to replace me? That is true. The same goes for Goldor. It's supposed to create a portal between 2 green-colored walls. Perhaps that is exactly why the spell can only work on green walls, Mr. Wright. Still, it'd be impossible for the shades to get those portals ready so quickly. I agree. If we take a moment to think, we can see that all of these spells have one strange thing in common. A thing in common? Yes, indeed. Almost as if some time between the start and end of the incident was unaccounted for. Furthermore, any memory I might have had regarding the incident seems to have simply disappeared in the process.
I've got it! Nick! It's just like what happened to Kira. She's got absolutely no memory of her life in Labyrinthia before the trial, right? Yes. I do not remember this Kira you speak of. Oh yeah! When you think about it, doesn't it seem super weird how the shades are able to return to town if they complete their task?
You're right, Maya. I mean, the townsfolk are bound to remember some things about them, right? Like how Miss Kira here threw a major hissy fit in court and was barbecued for being a witch. Eloquently put, Mr. Wright. Hence, we cannot yet conclude that this entire illusion was primarily accomplished through the use of machinery. Simply put, there must have been some way of affecting the memories of all those within the confines of this town.
Missing time and lost memories? Now that is interesting, Inquisitor. You are correct. There is, in fact, a secret that lies within the depths of Eldritch Woods. Something that the people of this town cannot see. Something that can rob people of their time and memories. 'Tis the very thing that connects all of what you have heard tonight. 'Tis a secret of monumental proportions.
Way to be dramatic, Darklaw. And let me guess. 'Tis a secret that cannot be revealed by the mistress of the Eldritch Woods. Is that right?
Yes, an excellent deduction, Defender.
Of course. Figure it out yourself. Witches' souls wander astray within the Eldritch Woods. Until tonight, I thought this nothing but a mere fairy tale told to children. But it has become clear that a seemingly large organization lies within that forest.
The Witch's Court is the border between this world and the other world.
Then that means, in this world, you're Labyrinthia's High Inquisitor, while also being mistress to the Shades in the other world, otherwise known as the Great Witch. May I intervene for just a moment, Mr. Wright? Sure. In all honesty, there is still something that sticks out as a little odd, particularly in Miss Darklaw's previous testimony. Did you say the previous testimony? I already pushed that out of my head. I don't even remember the testimony anymore. There was one vital truth that we managed to take away from that testimony. You mean that magic does not truly exist in Labyrinthia? Indeed, quite the vital, a bit shocking truth. However, there is one more truth hidden within that same testimony. There's something else in that testimony? I must have checked the court record more times than I can count, but I didn't find a single other contradiction. Have you forgotten already, Mr. Wright? When there's no evidence left, we have but one more weapon at our disposal with which to uncover the truth.
Oh, hey! I've got it, Nick! Remember in a witch trial you can cross-examine two witnesses at the same time?
Hey, that's right. I completely forgot. Being able to have a look at two testimonies side by side is bound to turn up a contradiction somewhere. And that contradiction should provide us with a much-needed clue. I'm not entirely sure where the professor is going with this, but I believe in his judgment. Besides, if we're going to blow this case wide open, it's gotta be worth a shot. Very well, we will now take a closer look at Lady Darklaw's previous testimony. This is it, Miss Darklaw's previous testimony. There is a glaring contradiction between this piece of testimony and the others. Ready yourself, Mr. Wright. Alright, testimony is actually coming from Kira herself. This is the one.
Objection!
What? How did you go back to that side of the... Okay. Your Honor, there's obviously a huge discrepancy between these two pieces of testimony. Miss Darklaw stated that she is known as the Great Witch. However, according to Miss Kira's testimony, Miss Darklaw was her venerable mistress, the Great Witch. Oh hey, I mentioned that earlier, like, was? That is correct. She was the Great Witch. Note Miss Kira's use of the past tense. That is so subtle, though. I think it took me a while to figure out what the frick it was. Past tense? I'm afraid my grammar is not quite what it used to be. May I ask what you mean? Yeah, it's okay, Judge. My past tense sucks, too. It's simple. Miss Darklaw was mistress to the Shades, or as you also called her, the Great Witch. Therefore, she is no longer the Great Witch. She is not the Great Witch. Witness, is this true?
Huh? It is as you have heard, my lord. I relinquish my position as Great Witch in order to fulfill the objective of this task.
What would that objective be again? That would be the assassination of the storyteller, Your Honor. Witness, at the beginning of this trial, you stated that you came into town in order to complete your task, didn't you? What's more, you said that you were going to summon the fire dragon to do it. Now, this task, it wasn't Miss Darklaw here who gave it to you, was it?
No, it wasn't.
So then, the most pressing question is, who was it that gave you that task? Who told you to come to Labyrinthia and assassinate the storyteller?
I cannot tell you, no matter what.
Alright, so Darklaw isn't the Great Witch anymore. Which must mean the mastermind behind this entire thing is... It would seem the defense has worked it out as well. Mr. Wright, you know who really gave Miss Kira her task tonight, do you not? Defender, I ask that you enlighten the court. I know we're going over, but I want to get to the conclusion of this part. Show us who really gave this witness her task to assassinate the storyteller. The storyteller himself.
Take that!
The storyteller? We're talking about someone with the authority and power to replace the Great Witch. Someone who calls the shots. I can't think of anyone else that meets those criteria except for the storyteller himself. Preposterous! Then that would mean... Exactly, Your Honor. It means that the storyteller gave this final task to Kira himself. He was, in short, responsible for his own assassination. What?! So good. Order! Order! Order in the court! But for what purpose? Why would he plan his own assassination? That I cannot say, Your Honor. However, the final chapter of the story does tell of his inevitable death. While he assigned this task to Kira himself, it is perfectly natural that he would do so. However, what is not natural is your behavior tonight, Miss Darklaw. What was unnatural about the High Inquisitor's behavior? You were once the head of all the Shades, and yet tonight you tried to interfere with the storyteller's plan. You rendered Miss Kira unconscious and locked her away in the belfry of the bell tower. That, to me, seems like the activity of someone aiming to put a stop to his plan altogether. Indeed, Lady Darklaw, what would be the reason for such behavior? I leave that to you, Mr. Wright. Based on what we've seen in this trial, the defense believes Miss Darklaw's reason for covering up her actions tonight can only be attributed to one thing. This plan was handed down by the storyteller himself. And Miss Darklaw was definitely aiming to put a wrench in it, but why? She tried to betray the storyteller. There's one possible reason I can think of as to why Miss Darklaw had to hide her actions tonight. She was aiming to betray the storyteller. Betray the storyteller? I agree, Mr. Wright. The storyteller used the Great Witch Bezella to take his own life. Instructions to carry out the plan were given to Miss Kira. However, Miss Darklaw planned to intervene and change the scenario at the very last minute. She planned to do so by changing the identity of the Great Witch from Miss Kira to Miss Cantabella. Thus bringing us to our current situation, Miss Cantabella on trial for the murder of her father at the hands of Bezella. You, Miss Darklaw, seem to harbor a rather strong hatred for the storyteller, if I am not mistaken. A hatred, you say? Yes, I suppose you could call it that. That's right. Behold, my revenge. Did you say revenge? Miss Darklaw, will you please tell the court of your plan for revenge? I think we're gonna have to hold that off until the next video. I just wanted to get the reveal of who is really the mastermind. So, I will see you guys in the next video where we find out why she's doing this for revenge!